Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Back Five podcast. We've never played with a back six before. I checked, I did check the history, and yeah, on the week that we heard that Theo Walcott finally retired, age 34, and I was thinking, Glenn, what was I doing when I was at age 34, man? I was probably still working hard, like I still do now. And also the day where we hear that Mikel Arteta thinks there's no number ones. Am I number one? Should I be number one? No, I'm not number one. I'm number two or three or four. But anyway, fellas, good evening to you. How's everybody?
Good, man.
We're good, good.
Doing
Thanks,
good.
man.
Nice, nice one, good. Well,
How's you?
uh, Glenn. So, what I wanted to say actually before we kind of started going into the topics, I just was checking Brighton, and Brighton are. I don't know what's happened to Brighton. Who have they sold so far over the last, say, season and a half? But they sold Ben White. They sold Bissouma, Marco Kakuna, Mope, I forget about him, Trossard, McAllister, and Moses Caicedo for a bucket load of money. But where are they? They're top of the league. They're top of the league. What can we learn from Brighton, Glenn?
Oh, you want me to go? It's crazy when you have the same name, isn't it? It's just so. I do love Brighton. Absolutely love Brighton. Like their recruitment team is absolutely different. Like I saw him. I think it's the director, the guy who focuses on the transfers. I saw him. I saw his interview. I think at the end of last season, and the way he thinks is literally different from how everyone else thinks. Like the way he signs players, the way they got Mitoma, for example, the way they got the likes of McAllister. They never spend 70 or 80 million on players. So lesson to Chelsea, don't really have to spend 100 million on players for you to work out. So Brighton is definitely a team I can see cementing a top six, top seven, becoming a top six, top seven team in the next couple of years, like permanently.
Yeah, I was thinking if we were to sell it, what would happen if we sold Odegaard and Party, Apollo?
If we sold Odegaard and Party,
Yeah,
I think it would all fall apart because you're talking about one of the most creative players in the league last season and the third top player winning the ball back in the final third, which was Odegaard. And then you're talking about the best transitional midfielder in the Premier League. So taking those two things away, you've lost the midfielder. And you've already lost Xhaka. I'm not his biggest fan, but he had 7 goals, 7 assists last season. And when the tough got going, the going got tough and Xhaka rolled his sleeves up. And if you take all 3 of those players away, you've really trying to reinvent yourself at a time like this you don't have the time for that.
yeah, absolutely. Well said, actually. And Glenwyn, how's the game, man? And Brighton sold a bucket load of players, and they're on top of the league. And we can't sell Thomas Partey, we can't sell Martin Odegaard, we can't sell Ramsdale.
Well, Brighton has to just keep our space warm there. So for now, let them be. You know what? The one who laughs last laughs the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Brighton, thank you for keeping our seat warm. We soon will knock you off there. Yeah. Now look, Alex, it's amazing to see what sort of power Brighton has in terms of their business recruiting and how they can manage to get a manager like De Zerbi can get so much out of such a bunch of youngsters, a group of young players that he got out so much already, and yet they can still go more. I mean, their ceiling is so high that, I mean, it's probably the sky's the limit, if I could say that. So big ups to De Zerbi, number one, and big ups to Brighton, the recruitment team, because they at this point are the best run club, if I could say.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to stay there for long. Who knows? They might get a bit of a knock off the threshold, or the sort of throne they are sitting on. That throne belongs to Arsenal.
Yeah. But like you say, it's not how you start; it's how you finish, isn't it? So
Correct.
No. Vincey, man of traveling.
His mic's not working. We can't hear you, bro.
This is not a good sign for a game tonight, is it?
No, I don't.
Hey, he's traveling to Crystal Palace.
Things are falling apart.
Vinci. Still can't hear. Can't hear you.
It has to do with something with the settings. It's not as easy as
Yeah.
StreamYard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things you got to do to.
I give it that. Yeah. Streamer's a lot more straightforward. But all right. So whilst Vince is trying to sort that little issue out there, let's go into the first topic. And the first topic, guys, I want to talk about was I joked about it in the intro about, am I number one, not number one? Well, Mikel Arteta actually said when I asked about the two goalkeepers situation, he said, well, no, there are no number ones, not in any position. Apollo, no number ones. Why would he say that?
Yeah,
you've got to have a number one, surely.
Yeah, look, I think there's. I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I think everybody is right. I think that we've seen situations where having two good goalkeepers works, and we've obviously seen situations where, like Chelsea, where it's just capitulated, and PSG and other great teams as well. Look, all he's saying is, if you look at every other position in the team, everyone's fighting for position. So why not the goalkeeper? So for him, that's only going to create more competition, which means that the players are going to have to perform at optimal levels. So you can't afford to have anybody have an off day, because if you do, I'm going to drag you off. That's basically where he's come. It's really cutthroat, yeah. But here's my problem with it. It's the only position in the team that you need stability. Like, the goalkeeper position is very singular. You cannot depend on anybody assisting you, helping you out, helping you with saves, helping you with distribution. You've got to wait for things to happen and then react to it. And it's those reactions that goalkeepers are judged by. So it's a very singular position. And in my opinion, whatever you do greatly affects the whole team as a result. So if a goalkeeper tries to do something, say, different, and it goes wrong, a goal's been let in. And so what the decision means, in theory, it can lead to potential problems. That being said, there were times that Ramsdale did fall off the ball last season, and if we had the number two, Raya could have come in. Or if Ramsdale then goes and tears his ACL and is out for 9 months, or he pulls a hamstring, he's out for 2 months, then what are you going to do? So I'm in both camps here, and I know I don't want it to make it sound like I'm playing a get out of jail free card, but I do agree with it. Me personally, if I was in Arteta's shoes, I would have pulled the trigger on it as well, because the chances to have two of those goalkeepers, and remember, we're saying that Ray is elite. He hasn't really played elite type football, has he? He hasn't been challenging for a title. He hasn't played in the Champions League. Well, Ramsdale hasn't, but at least Ramsdale's been in the title race. So he hasn't got all of those. As far as he knows, Brentford is his ceiling. So that's all we know about Raya. Statistically, that's where his ceiling is. So this is new for Raya now, because now we're going to have to see something from the cup games. For me, I would play him in the cup games, see how he does, and then if anything changes, like Ramsdale's form or his escalation, then I would do something. But I would not by any means put him in the team before Ramsdale.
Cup games including, Champions League?
No, not including Champions League. But in that being said, though, if there's 38 Premier League games, I would start him in maybe 5 to 8 of those games. I'd give him some games. He deserves to have those games. But look, it's a win-win situation, because if it doesn't work out, you can pull away from the deal. So
yeah, Glenn, your thoughts about no number ones in Arteta's team?
I'm looking at this situation from positive note, like from both 3-4 different ways. Back in the day, we didn't have these options of choosing two very good goalkeepers like this. I remember when Lehmann dropped off the boil and we had Almunia coming in, making mistakes against Barcelona, and then obviously Fabianski, Manone, all those guys. Right now, we have two good goalkeepers. And people keep on saying, well, other teams don't have two good goalkeepers. Well, let's be the first. Let's set the levels. Let's have two good goalkeepers. And both of them, like, we have a very good shotstopper in Ramsdale. I do love Ramsdale, absolutely. And as Apollo said, we are getting Raya on loan. So you don't really have to buy him. If it doesn't work out after the 1 year, we can let him go to Brentford and keep Ramsdale. If Ramsdale actually improves in his game this season, we will have a number one after that, Alex. We'll definitely have a number one after that. But hey, if as Apollo said as well, if he gets an injury, we have Raya to play in the Champions League. Imagine if we didn't have Raya and we only had Ramsdale. He gets injured and you have a Champions League game next up, and you have to play, Karl Hein or Concord, those goalkeepers. It wouldn't be great. So good competition for Ramsdale. Good to have all those positions sorted out. We still need more, obviously, but it's a good thing that you have a lot of good players in different positions. We've never been in this situation.
Yeah. And I think it would be good for Mikel Arteta to be able to manage two number ones in that position there. But anyway, Vincey. Oh, still got problems with no. No.
Vincey.
Glenn win.
He's tried his best. He's tried.
Yeah, maybe you should have just gone to the hotel room, Vincey. Yeah. No, look, I mean, my thoughts is, I wonder what Ramsdale must be thinking, what's going through his mind. Sort of, I mean, surely.
No, but I think he has said that he doesn't have any problems with that because
that has been said. I mean, you and I, we're not telepathic. You know what I mean? We can't say think what or hear what he thinks. And coming out, and I mean, you and I had a bit of a discussion this morning about somebody coming out in social media and in the media and all sorts of things. So saying one thing, and we're gonna get to it probably later in the stage. Saying one thing and thinking and doing a different thing is totally different, because surely he must be thinking, is my job really under pressure? Is my job really up for a fight? Somewhere you have to probably doubt himself. Am I really that bad for another not world class, but another good keeper to come in? It can go two ways. Either he drops off or he excels. I would rather expect him to do the latter, to excel and become a better goalkeeper. He's still a young guy, and I mean, obviously Raya is a bit older than him. He has a bit more experience in playing. But Ramsdale has not done anything that you could argue, say he's done something wrong in order for Mikel Arteta or the club to say, but we're going to bring in another person. Which brings me to the next point, is that, yes, the goalkeeper is never secure like any other position, because you have to have somebody, and this is where I believe Saka is very complacent, because there is nobody to push him. So in that sense, I think it is a good thing to have somebody to push you and give you that sort of idea that I might overtake you. And that is what we need in the Ramsdale position, the goalkeeper. And Bukayo Saka needs that person to push him and to make him feel that you are not alone in that position, because currently he doesn't get anything, or he's not been taken away from that position if he does something wrong, or if he has an off game or whatever. I mean, it's very unlikely that he has an off game all the time, but it can become a complacency situation with Saka if he doesn't get somebody to push him. So Ramsdale at this stage, I would say he must really pull up his socks. He must take off his secret socks now and pull up his socks and get going. You know what I mean? He must prove himself to be the number one in this stage. For me, he's still the number one, because Raya has to come in and prove himself still.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm just talking about the Bukayo Saka position there. I think Apollo has told me in the past that Reece Nelson is supposed to be the competition for that position there. Is he really competition for Bukayo Saka, Apollo? Really?
When you've got the poster boy of a franchise and you've got probably the best player in the England team, I don't think that there's competition there. And I'm just being fair on Saka. And I've been not critical of Saka as much as most people have, but I've been challenging Saka year on year to improve as a player. And sometimes it's nice for us to step outside of our circle and see how the other teams view him, see how the league views him. and everyone looks at him as the face of the franchise. Like, if you talk to anybody outside of being an Arsenal fan, anyone in world football, and you say, who's the best player on Arsenal's team? Everyone will say Saka. So, in my opinion, I don't think that there's a situation where you can look at him and say, he's got competition. It's like Kevin De Bruyne. No Man City fan will say Kevin De Bruyne's got competition. They just wouldn't say it. And so that's how I look at Saka. And it's taken me time to get there because I've held him to high esteem. I've expected a lot from him, but he's delivered on that promise.
Yeah.
He's earned that right.
Yeah. But Apollo, do you not think what Arteta has said is something that Pep Guardiola would probably say? That in my team I don't have number ones, just to try and get that competition. Is he not echoing what Pep Guardiola would say, Apollo?
He is, but see, the difference is the Guardiola's working with one of the most experienced teams in the league and easily the best team in the world at this present time. Arteta's team is still an average of 22 years and 11 months. So they're still, by all accounts, one of the youngest teams in the league. So he has to instill that sort of mindset and that Mamba mentality, as Kobe Bryant would say. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen overnight. Last year was a great experience for our guys, but even with all of our talent and even with that experience we have, we're still lacking the mental toughness. How do we know? Because we saw it from the back end of last season. So the things he's doing with Ramsdale, the things he's doing with Saka, the way he's talking about them in the media right now, I've noticed a change in Arteta's motives. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to light a fire in the team's backside. Because there is right now the expectations now is to win, not top four. It's to win. So he's trying to move the goalposts, and hopefully the players then would step up to the plate.
Yeah. Vincey,
family, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Words. You know what? I tell you what, I just finished playing the golf tournament, and the reception in the area was not great, but I think this link doesn't work well with Android phones because it's all Chrome. So I've had to go onto my tablet and Safari. But no worries, man. It's good to be with the family, man.
Nice one.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Good to see you, man. Good to see you in the driver's seat.
The chat room can go mad now because Vince gets their love from the chat room.
Vince is on the wheel.
Make sure you don't crash, man.
Keep focus.
Yeah. So Vincent, we were just talking about Mikel Arteta, and this week he's been talking about how his team doesn't have any number ones, and I think that's probably directed at the goalkeeping position there. So can you understand why Mikel Arteta would say that about I don't have any number ones in the team?
Listen, I think when managers say this is a ploy, because at the end of the day, all managers want leaders, and the situation with the goalkeeper is yes, Ramsdale is the number one, but he can't go out now and say, actually Raya is a number one. You just can't do that because he'll lose Ramsdale as a player. So when he's saying, he doesn't have any number ones, he clearly does have number ones in positions. Fans can see it, but he can't go out into the media and say that, in my personal opinion. And I actually think managers in general need leaders. So they need multiple number ones to be able to switch up their system. So I think, there's many ways you can look at this. But I do think at the end of the day, this all comes back down to Arteta because he's created this squad. He's allowed the squad to develop in the way and take shape that it has. And it's now going to come back to him now. Well, if you don't have number ones, then, and we don't get over the line, then a lot of things are going to be now directed at Arteta as to, well, then why don't we have quote unquote number ones? Why don't we get over the line over a few years now when you're at the helm and you've actually created this squad that is hugely talented and on the cusp of achieving greatness. So I look into these situations differently to what Apollo said. And people could say one thing and you just take it for as gospel, but there's a lot of psychology in when people talk. And you've got to take these things with a pinch of salt and look a little bit deeper. Ramsdale has been outstanding for Arsenal, and there's no way you can turn around and say in the media that, actually Ray is going to be number one. You just can't say it.
There's just one other thing actually before we move on. Apollo was just talking towards the end of his chatter there about the maybe last season they lacked the mental toughness to get over the line, or the nous. But what about Mikel Arteta? He's not really been in that situation before to get a team over the line to win a major honours. So as well as the players, you're looking at the manager who really doesn't know how to get the players. Am I being too critical about Mikel Arteta lacking the nous and know how to get the players over the line?
I don't think you're being critical. I think it's something that we have to hold him accountable. And I think Arteta holds himself accountable because of the standard of what he's understood his football academy to be at La Masia and under Pep Guardiola. They don't mess about. They like a high standard. The problem is we're ahead of the curve, and we've seen this young Arsenal squad push Man City to the brink. So naturally, we're going to want this season, to push forward. And with that, the expectation and the realization that actually we can achieve something now. So I don't think you're being critical. I just think the way Arteta is and the way how he has implements his system, there is a huge amount of pressure on him this season. I don't think that it was wrong for him to have that self-respective concern about, okay, am I the right man to take this team forward? Because his level is right up there. And he has to perform like that every game. It's a huge amount of pressure because this squad is young enough. Unfortunately, with the injury to Timber, I think it's going to hamper us this season now, because he would have been the X factor that would have allowed us a lot of versatility. Now we've almost got to go back to square one to how we were playing last season, and the room, the margin of error is more shorter now with the Timber injury. But I'm prepared to, I've said it at the start of the stream, I'm prepared to, as long as we move forward in our tactics, because I think the tactics were naive at times where the players are playing to a system, and when they break down, he's not playing in that system. And I think that's what cost Arsenal big time last season. This season, anything can happen, but I think there's more pressure on Arteta than the players this season.
Glenn, I want to talk very quickly about you and Timber, but Vinci beat me to it. How much of an impact, losing you and Timber, who for me just hit the ground running in the preseason and in the first game, Glenn?
It was painful, man. That day I had that news, I literally almost cried. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually crying because of Arsenal players. It was really big signing. We obviously expect a lot from Declan Rice. We've not really signed a player for 100 million and stuff. And now many people expect a lot from Havertz, but he's still a big sign, in terms of money. But Timber right away hit the ground running, and he was already our best signing already. And you could hear rival fans already talking about him, oh my goodness, Timber, they now have Timber. They only had Saliba last, and if Saliba gets injured this, and they now have Timber. They're already scared of him. So as Vince said, Timber versatility. We signed him as a right back and as a centre back. He started playing as a left back as well. Played very well against Man City. Played very well against Nottingham Forest. So I don't think it's painful. Obviously losing him. It's very tough to go out to the market again and get someone like him. Yes, you can get someone kind of, but obviously we had approached this guy and we had looked at him for a couple of months, so it's very hard to start looking at someone else who's almost similar. But if we can try and get someone else defensively, obviously changes our plans. Maybe you're going for an attack and stuff, so that's one case, Alex. Maybe you were trying to go for an attack and now that kind of forces us to go for a defender now and forget about an attacker, unless they will get two players. I would love it if they can get two players, attacker and a defender. But Timber is a huge loss, man, huge loss. And he had settled in perfectly. And him coming from Ajax as well, a team that plays similar football like us, it's very difficult to get a player like that. So it's a huge blow, but hopefully we can recover. Hopefully Zinchenko fully recovers and hopefully can get a couple of, maybe another defender who can do the facilitated defense.
Yeah. Glenwyn, you and Timber, major loss.
Yeah, man. I believe Jurgen Timber would have kept Zinchenko and Tierney out of the team for as long as he could, because he's done well in that position. I mean, we all know that Thomas Partey is the right back of note. So
we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, so I think Jurgen Timber is a big, huge loss for us. However, there is a sort of flip side to my thinking in terms of we have Kivior, we have Tierney, we have Zinchenko, and we have Tomiyasu. That's 4 backup players already. Well, Zinchenko is probably number 1 in that 4 now, but why don't just wait until January? I mean, we can still get to the first half of the season with those 4 players. And if we have to, one of the 2 centre backs gets injured, we've got a backup in Ben White and obviously Kivior that can play in that center half, and then we've got the 3 others to obviously go into the right back and left back respectively. So I would rather say let's get the attacker and wait till January and see, can't we just get a loan deal for the last 6 months of the season type thing. Then you don't have to splash all that money on a player that we're going to probably sit with along the line. If we do get somebody on a permanent, what do we do with that person if Jurgen Timber comes back? Then we just overload it in that department again. Pardon me. So, there is a bit of a light side to that. Yes, we're going to miss him, but we have cover there. And I mean, Mikel Arteta also made mention of this when he was asked to say that, are we going to get people now in the market? And his response was, we're going to make use with what we have currently. But if we're going to have to, then obviously that will be the case. So the thinking behind all that is we've got sufficient cover in that position, and it's a strong cover. Tierney is your old school left back, go up and down. Unless Tierney leaves, then I would say, you know what, get somebody on the cheap. But until, I don't think Tierney is going to leave now with that problem we have. Make use of those people that we have. Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Tierney, and of course Kivior can also play there. So yeah, it's a big loss for Timber, but I think we're still okay in that department.
Apollo, for you and Timber, major loss, man.
Yeah, but I've been trying to downplay it for various reasons. Like we didn't have him last year anyway, and look how close we came. So let's not forget that we've got a very good team that can challenge for the title. Secondly, is as you know, I'm a big NBA, NFL fan, American football fan. I'm used to having these injuries on my team every year, and there are different caveats to it. There are different sections to an ACL, and luckily for us, and we should be very happy that it's not a major ACL tear. So in regards to the 9 months plus, that's not what he has. Most people are stretched off when they have this illness. He literally was walking off 2 hours after the injury. So yes, he'll be out for 6 months or so. We probably will see him at some point towards the end of the season. But I don't think it's going to ruin us. I really don't. Yes, it's going to hurt the way that Arteta plans to play, but that was only like a plan B and plan C. Our plan A is still really good, guys. Yeah, it may struggle against Man City, but our plan A was good enough to beat 95% of the teams in the league. So I'm trying not to think about it too much and overly think about it too much, because I'm just trying to pretend it didn't happen. And for me, when he comes back, he'll be a new signing again because he's not really been a part of what's happened previously before. Yeah. So, you know me, never a negative guy, always looking at things in a positive light. So he'll be back sooner than what we think. And if we can, you know, the team can kind of rally behind those injuries, can't they? You know, they can kind of play for Urian, and that then becomes a thing. So I think that a lot of positives will come from this.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Gabriel Jesus is still out. Zinchenko is still not quite ready. So injuries.
He traveled today, so he might start.
Yeah, I mean, they did say literally he might be ready for the Palace game, but he won't be match fit per se.
Yeah, we need him to stay fit. By the way,
Alex, can I just say that, you know, just based on your question about his Arteta's inexperience and him saying that we're going to use the players that we've got, I think this is kind of what leads to your point, because I think clubs would know how we played last year and they'll set up straight away to play us that way. We are limited based on the injuries that we have to certain players, Zinchenko coming back, Jesus out, to the surprise factor that Arteta probably was relying on with Timber coming in and the versatility that he brings. He's now probably going to have to use the likes of Tomiyasu, which is not a bad player, but he's going to have to use Tomiyasu to try and invert what he's trying to do on that side. So I think this is why I'm saying that the challenges that Arteta, because of injury and the way how the squad personnel on that left-hand side in defence. Once he's that out, I think we'll be fine. I think it's a huge challenge, and it's, for me, it's not something that you can a player like Timber, because you know he was just like Saliba. Confidence that he brought is huge, but I think we're going to overcome it. I just think it is a factor that kind of leads to, if he wanted to change the system, he could change the system based on in the team, because we still have defensive a good proper fit defensive change that system based on the same question that you've asked. It's that inexperience in systems.
I do want to give you guys an update as well, because I've had two sources, Colin and Sophie, at the training ground, but I do have another person who just started working for Arsenal last week, and she's also in the medical section. So I'm getting quite a lot of updates from her now. So she doesn't want to get me, she doesn't want me to get her into trouble. So even her dad, who Vincey knows quite well actually, has told me not to say too much. But Gabriel Jesus is booked for a physical on Friday this week in order for him to start light training. So if he gets a pass, then he's going to enter the light training schedule. So
that's good news.
It's all good news for him. It's all good news.
Good news.
Inside information. I've
always had inside information.
Glenn. I don't have a job anymore. Is there no chance that I can work at the
Yeah, unfortunately, even when I went down to the London Coley training ground when I was representing Amazon Prime on the TV series, I was asking for jobs there as well. But I mean, the thing is, to be honest with you, as Alex knows, they know me very well down there because I actually used to be a supplier of theirs about 10 years ago. So when I go down there, they all know who I am. So it's not too bad. I'm hoping still they'll call me and give me a job down there.
Never give up, man. Never give up.
I live 5 minutes from there, so traveling's not a problem.
There you go. So, guys, so we've got Ramsdale, who is the goalkeeper. We've got Tierney, who's a left back. We've got Martin Odegaard, who's a midfielder. We've got Nketiah, who's a striker. Thomas Partey is not a right back. He's not a right back. Glenn, what's going on, man? You can't play Thomas.
I like how he built up to that. I absolutely love it. So, I was wondering, like, where's Alex going with this one? I don't like Partey at right back, but I don't think it's really affected us to this point. Yes, it kind of changes our game. I do still prefer Ben White and Saka because of the relationship on the right side. When Partey plays the right back, he doesn't necessarily play as a right back 100% of the time. Like 7% of the time, he's coming into midfield. But
Exactly.
Yes, I do feel like we have other players who. I think since he comes into midfield, I don't think we have too many players who can do that better than him, especially now that Timber is out injured. We've never really tried Ben White as an inverted fullback. I'd love to see that. But yes, if you're to ask me, do you prefer Partey playing there or Ben White, I'd still choose Ben White. But if we have to play Partey there, it doesn't really cost us. Obviously, you can't play him there when you're playing against Zaha is no longer in the league, but players like Grealish and Zaha and those quick wingers, yes. But in a game like Nottingham Forest, where you're expected to have 90% of the ball, I don't really mind it. But I don't think you're going to see that every single day, not even today.
I hope not.
So Glenn, just for the record, 82% of Partey's possession was in the midfield and only 18% was in the right back position. So you're right, 100%. He was completely inverted. What he was really, he was playing in a double pivot and just dropped back into the right back role to support. That's all he really did. So it wasn't essentially a right back.
Caught out
that's danger, right? That's danger.
It is danger. But I think a lot of the things that some of the Arsenal fans weren't pointing out was that there was a lot of people's fault. Like Saka was also at fault for that string of events that led to the goal. So it wasn't just Partey. If everything had worked to plan, that goal shouldn't have happened. And so
I honestly thought
the only time it's gonna come and bite Arteta in the butt is that if there's a goal coming through that way, if something happens that comes through there continuously, because our manager is very stubborn.
Yeah.
Until something happens, I'm not even sure if it's going to change, because last season it happened with Zinchenko on the left. So it continuously came through there. So I think it will become a huge problem for fans and for criticism's sake. If Partey continues to start at right back and there's problems coming through there and we concede through there, then we're going to obviously hear it. For now, it works. And until it doesn't, it's going to become a huge point for critique.
You reckon he'll start there today?
No, I don't think so. I hope not, but I don't think so.
So, I'm talking about, the closeness with the relationship between Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta is obvious. Didn't Bernardo Silva, didn't he play at right back or left back?
Yeah.
Right. They've played in a variety of positions, which is basically what Arteta has at his Arsenal now. No pun intended. But look, guys, my opinion on this is, I've said this before many times on my stream, the single pivot is not sustainable. It just isn't. And we're moving away from that. And Arsenal fans need to accept, A, that that's happening. And B, when Arsenal fans were saying we ain't got no plan B, now we're doing plan B, everybody's complaining. So, give the manager time to kind of see what works and what he's trying to get to. But for me, guys, the 3 points are the single pivot's not sustainable. Trying to fit Declan Rice in, that's point 2. And then number 3 is he's trying to see how versatile Partey can be in a support role, because due to his age and due to the fact that he's not a long-term solution and he's had issues with durability, you can't bank your whole. You can't put $1 million on black and then it turns out on red. You can't, because you've done that the last 2 years.
But Apollo, why didn't he do that during the pre-season? In the Premier League first game of the season, that's not the game to experiment, man.
Yeah, I think
lucky.
I think a lot of things was happening. First of all, Partey had a very short preseason, didn't he? Because of events that we all know about. And secondly, he wanted to experiment with Havertz and Timber and Rice more in the variety. So he essentially he knows what Partey can do. Partey at the back end of last season, guys, let's not remember, he was playing left back against Wolves and against Brighton. And Wolves, he was one of our best players when he was when he was at left back replacing Zinchenko. So it's not just happening now in regards to Partey. The Partey experiment has happened a long time before, but he's just trying to fit him in to see how he works into the team and how he'll be an asset in the double pivot and where he can move him around. Yeah, I think it's positive. But in that being said, though, as far as Thomas Partey being one of his biggest supporters, looking at him right now, I don't think he's 100 because again, he had a short preseason.
Yeah.
I don't think he's actually hit the ground running at the moment. I still don't think he's 100%.
Yeah, a bit short. Vincey.
God, I've never been a fan of the single pivot with Partey. Never. I think it's too much. I've always been a fan of, but the problem he's got is his choice of. So you got Tomiyasu. You buy Tomiyasu. His first season, outstanding. Wants to fill in the right hand side and not overlap. Player who's behind in defence, not to overlap Saka and fill in that position. I'm hearing people say that, fans say that it worked because when he was exposed, that showed to you with Partey in that position doesn't work. Yes, we had a lot of the Forest were playing, but you do not want to take the chances. There was a perfect example of actually, you know what? If a smart team and Thomas Partey is in that right position, he's going to get rinsed. And what we don't, Partey pulling a hamstring or an injury to get back because he's out of position. Natural game is in the midfield, springing passes. You can do a 1-2. And Xhaka last season was sublime. And I can he's forcing Havertz. Havertz is the problem because Partey and Rice play in tandem. But come to link with Odegaard, that's a huge problem. So if Partey's moved from the midfield to the right, and then the right to because you saw during that Forest games at times we lacked penetration. You can't have a Thomas Partey. I believe you're asking too much of the guy based on the system. When you've got Tomiyasu, you can play in the three at the back. Stop confusing things. 3 at the back. Let the 2 in midfield move around. Because Saliba can play in the back, Tomiyasu can play at the back, and you've got the same on the left-hand side. You've got Kirill, Timber, who's obviously out injured, but I'm not a huge fan of his defensive capabilities. Hence why we've got Timber. So to do, I just think he's asking too much.
Completely agree.
Thomas Partey be a Statue of Liberty holding his hand up again when those been flipped, and that was painful because he's such an instrumental figure deep and in the middle with his passing and his movement. He can drop, lose a defender, keep the ball moving, and that's it. We're in transition. Man, that's my nervous system under duress, man. I can't do that.
But Vincey, do you think he did that, Mikel Arteta, because it was only Nottingham Forest? We would not see that if he were playing against a Man City or Liverpool or Chelsea. He did it against Nottingham Forest.
Against Forest, but I don't see how it helped us against Forest because at times our play was quite inept because we lacked the overlap. So if we get the ball and spray the ball out because there's space for Saka, well, Partey is doing that in the midfield. There's no reason for him to hugging that right because if anything, you're then going to be expecting those balls, and then Partey is a spare part on the right hand side. So for it, I didn't see any need why it needed to be there.
Yeah.
Me, you know,
I
I don't think the stats for me showed well actually saw what he was doing, moving midfield to the right from right when he could have just stayed in the right in the central midfield.
I think, guys, the one thing that we all have to remember is, and this is key to all of us, is our movements and, you know, our shape right now. Our shape is smaller than it was last season. We're much more of a compact team in this new system and double pivot that we're running. But guys, all of it is by design. Like, if there's one thing you guys know about Arteta is he doesn't leave things to chance. You know, and that's maybe why a lot of people doesn't really like Arteta ball, but it's effective. It really is effective. The only thing he struggled with is that he doesn't have enough rotation in his team and that he hasn't used what he's had to the full ability of rotating players. But in general, one of the things that I've noticed with this new style from preseason, because it's going to take Arsenal fans a few games to get used to what's going on here, is quite a big change moving from a single, being overly reliant on a single to a double. Is I've noticed the way he uses Havertz and Odegaard is very clever, because he uses them to squeeze and overload the midfield areas to pull players out wide, and that's where you have guys who are unmarked. You know, like we're talking about Declan Rice or a Partey, depending on what side of the field it is, that can progress into different areas. So we're able to hit Martinelli and Saka much more quickly in this new system, and we're also able to play a rondo and recover the balls more quickly. When I saw Forest in possession, they had a Arsenal player in their face in no time at all. Like, they had no time on the ball for long periods of the game, for like 70 minutes. They saw nothing of the state of play until Arsenal took their foot off the gas, which they essentially done. So a lot of this, guys, is how Arteta ball is designed, and it's not for everybody. But I said, when it works, it's really effective. But I think it's going to take them a little bit of time, maybe 3-4 games before everybody gets on the same page. Declan Rice has come out and said, hasn't he, that I really need to pick this up fast because we haven't got time to sit on me trying. Yeah, we ain't got time for me to learn this because I got to pick it up really quickly. You know, things are happening right now. So, yeah, guys, everything you see on the pitch, there's no chance to it. It's all by design.
Glenn, can you play right back, Glenn?
I wish.
Okay.
I wish.
Just asking, because you never know. You never know, man. You never know. Right.
In that system, any of us can do.
Let's go. Right, so Cam, good afternoon, good evening. The boys are back in town. 8018 says, hey lads. And Ashley D says, hey up Gooners, welcome to California TV and the Crazy Gang. And Emerson says, good evening all, good evening to you.
Shout out to Emerson.
Yeah, Eddie to score and Palace to bid for him next week. That's not going to happen. I rate Eddie. Listen, give him the respect, man. If we have Partey at right back with Zinchenko at left back, we will invert the inversion, and no one really knows what will happen then. Well, yeah. The inversion of the inverted of the inverted.
It sounds like Tenet, Christopher Nolan's movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, that's crazy.
Dear. Have we sold Jesus yet? No. Thanks for asking, though. Alfie says, you see what Tony was saying earlier? The podcast was a good watch. Apollo, do you want to talk very quickly about
the Ivan Toney situation? Yeah. Look, I felt that he was trying to come over as sincere, but for me, I don't think he took enough responsibility. And when you do something like that, you have to own it, and then only then can you move forward. And what I saw was him playing a little bit of deflective tactics. He was kind of making too many lateral moves, and I didn't like that. I'm a fan, and I want him to succeed. But I wish he was a little bit more open, and I wish he took responsibility because, quite frankly, we haven't seen him talk for 3 months because he hasn't wanted to address anything. And did he really address it? Not really.
Not
I don't
really.
think he really addressed it.
Not
And
really.
and so for me, the cat is it hasn't settled yet. Yeah, the onus is on what he's done was wrong. He knows it, but by trying to say, yeah, I talked to somebody and told them to place the bet, so it's not my fault. No, bro, it's your fault. You didn't have to place the bets directly, but the fact that you told someone to do it still means it's your fault.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't want to give you guys spoiler alerts because I know.
Yeah, please. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say, guys, it reminds me of when Arsene Wenger brought his book out and everybody wanted to see what the dirt was and all the stuff that was going on. And then he didn't address it. He was just like, everything is nice, everything is rosy. No, Arsene, we know it wasn't nice and it wasn't rosy.
Yeah.
We want you to tell us why.
Well said, man. Well said. Oh dear. Anyway, Cam says, hoping Eddie gets another goal tonight. Glenn, where do you stand with Eddie Nketiah? Because I know for me, he does the business for Arsenal. Whenever he gets an opportunity to play games, last season Jesus was out injured. This season Jesus is out. Eddie's in. He's scoring goals. But for me, it doesn't get the respect that he deserves, man.
Yeah, he doesn't. Where I stand, I mean, I don't stand as high as Paul in terms of super fan for Eddie, but I'm also not in the category of nah, he's terrible, he's useless, sell him today. Nah, if you see his record for how many games he starts with the Emirates and how many goals he scored, it's great. So I'm in the opinion of if he actually starts 38 games out of 38, he will definitely get 15 plus. Yes, he'll miss chances, which will frustrate people, but he'll still get the chances. So I guess it doesn't appease Arsenal fans because, I mean, we've had the likes of Thierry and Van Persie, so everyone wants those kind of strikers. But I'm sure if he starts today as well, he will score again. So if he gets the chance, he will score. And I would actually start him today in my starting lineup. I would have him starting today. I know people have said drop him, start Trossard. I'd love Trossard start, obviously. He's a very good player. He's played very well for us and he's kept on proving himself. But for today, there's no need of dropping Nketiah because, as I just said, I mean, he's worked hard in training. If you work hard in training, perform, he scored last week. So dropping him this week would be unfair because he did what he had to do last week. He scored the goal that you wanted him to score. So if he plays today, doesn't score, plays next time, doesn't score, then you drop him and you bring someone else. But as long as he scored last week, start him today. Let's see how he does again. So I'm in the middle, Alex. As of now, I'm not saying sell him. No, he definitely needs to stay.
So let me throw a curveball at you, Glenn. Jesus is ready and raring to go. Do you drop Eddie?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. No, what Jesus? What? Not because Nketiah is not going to score anything like that. Jesus gives way too much for this team, like compared to everyone else, not just Nketiah, like anyone else. If you're to ask me, I'm in the opinion of even signing strikers as the likes of Glenn Wynn or giving the points 2 weeks ago about signing players and stuff. Like for me, I am absolutely happy with Jesus starting for us up front. The kind of system we play, it gives us so much. Coming into midfield is like his decisive play and his combination play with the likes of Martinelli and Saka. He came in last season after 3 games. It looked like he had played with Saka and Martinelli for like 2-3 years. Like he adapted right away. So Jesus gives us a lot. So that is why I'd bring him back straight to the starting lineup.
Okay. Glenn, did you want to say anything before?
Nketiah, he did well last season when Jesus got injured after World Cup and he scored the first goal. He has to do it consistently in order for us to see the Eddie Nketiah that we've seen in the under 20, the junior England squad. I mean, he's still the top goal scorer, if I'm correct, in the England junior squad. We need to see that sort of consistency, and we need to obviously look. Eddie is a goal scorer. He will score the goals that Havertz missed. He will score the goals that Jesus perhaps missed because he knows where the post is without looking where the post is. He knows that because that's instinct. That's how he grew up in playing, and also he has a point to prove to a lot of Arsenal fans, firstly, and then, of course, to the world out there, because there's a lot of criticism on him. I said Eddie is not good enough to take us as far as we want to. or rather, he's not good enough to be our first choice in order to take us there. I do see Eddie as a good striker, but he needs to do it consistently. I was one of the guys to say sell him because you know what, but currently we can't because we don't have sufficient backup there. So Eddie needs to do what he does consistently in order to obviously not be dropped after a couple of games not scoring. Because if Jesus come in, like Glenn said, he will come in and do something totally different. But you can't compare the two because they are totally different sort of players. Eddie is a player that will stay behind and snatch a goal here and there, whereas Jesus is a hard worker. I mean, we've seen that of Eddie's in some games where he will come and collect the ball and he will run at defenders, but he's not that type of player that Jesus is. But he will give you, if you consistently give him that time to do it. But he needs to come out of his own and consistently perform the way he does.
Apollo, it's just you and me, man.
I don't agree with that at all. Eddie Nketiah. First of all, I don't want to talk about Eddie, but I don't want to talk about Theo Walcott, because all Theo Walcott ever done for Arsenal is produce. He's the 14th highest goal scorer in Arsenal history, and never got the credit for it. And no Arsenal fan can factually say why. One Arsenal fan actually told me, he said, "Oh, the reason why I didn't wait Theo Walcott is because he wasn't as good as Ronaldo." And I was like, so hold on. You was criticizing this guy for his whole career because he never got to be as good as Ronaldo. The only player in the world who was good as Ronaldo was Messi. So how on earth did you hold Walcott to these standards? That, guys, in a nutshell, is the perception of an Arsenal fan. This guy scored 108 goals as a winger. That was the only person who scored more goals than him was at that position was Ryan Giggs. Yeah, he had 21 goals and 14 assists in 2013. Merez had 17 goals and 11 assists, which was less, and got player of the season when Leicester won the league. And now we see wingers like Salah, Raheem Sterling, Song for Spurs scoring 20 goals, and everyone raves about they're the best wide men in the league. But when Theo was doing it, nobody said anything. All people were doing was criticizing him. So along comes Eddie Nketiah, breaks Alan Shearer's record. Brilliant. Record still stands, by the way. He has 31 goals in 46 starts for Arsenal Football Club. Let me repeat that. 31 goals in 46 starts. When he came in 2 seasons ago, when Lacazette only had 2 outfield goals, he had 5 goals in his last 8 games of the season and maintained our push for top 4. He then came in to replace Jesus, had 4 goals in 9 games, and Jesus was injured in the first game last week and scored again. So in Jesus's absence, he's got 5 goals in 10 starts. That's 1 and 2. And you know what Arsenal fans are saying? It's still not good enough. Yeah. And that's that. And so for me, it's the Theo Walcott. It will never be enough. No matter what Eddie does, it will never be enough, because I've seen this go on for 10 years with Theo Walcott. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. That's the name of the game. You'd rather bring somebody in to put in that position when someone like him is already doing it at the level. He's answered all the questions. And let's even take away, let's say the goals. Forget the goals. He's the hardest working, pressing, attacking striker that we have. No defense or goalkeeper is safe when Eddie Nketiah is in the room. Yeah, they're not safe because he will close you down. He'll nick the ball off you. He'll grab a goal. His potential is ridiculous because he's improved his link play and his all-round game over the last 12 months. He's just getting better and better and better and better. And it's not just about the goals. I love what Glenn said when he said if you started him for the full season, he'll get you 15 plus goals. I think he'll get you 20 goals if you started him for all season.
Completely agree. Vincey, you want to say something, Vincey?
It's a tough one. You know, we've got to understand when Walcott came into the team, we were saying goodbye to Thierry Henry. And that for me is a big issue where a lot of Arsenal fans had an issue with Walcott, because he took the time to score the goals, and he replaced the legend like Ori. And if I'm a huge Walcott fan, but if anything, he did miss some chances, which was frustrating as a fan. But that's Walcott aside. For me, with Eddie Nketiah, his record, he is a poacher, and if anything, he is the modern day. His striking ability is like Gary Lineker's when Gary Lineker was at his prime. But the style of football that we're playing now is different. And I personally think it's stretching Eddie right now. And yes, he may nick a goal, but I don't just want my striker to score a goal. I want him to score 2. I want him to score 3, because if he's getting 3, 4, 5 chances, and they're good chances, I want him to score hat tricks. So when I'm looking and I'm thinking, all right, if he's having good chances, why isn't he not taking those goals? Not just the odd goal, because the odd goal doesn't satisfy me. If you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6 chances, or if you're not getting those 6 chances, why is that? Is it a system issue? Because we know Eddie can put the ball in the back of the net. And I do believe this is a work in progress into how Eddie gets fitter, stronger, and plays in the system. Is he going to be that guy that's going to get those chances and turn them away? Because we know he can score. I do think we have a system issue. And I don't personally think we're playing to the strengths of Eddie Nketiah, because we know back in the day when you were talking about Fox in the box and Franny Jeffers, he's 10 times better than Franny Jeffers.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're playing Eddie ball. So there's one thing of saying, okay, look at his record for the under 21s and what he's broken, but we're not playing that football. And if we were, you'll be seeing Eddie scoring hat tricks.
Yeah.
He's not, for a reason.
He's close though. I mean, last year at Emirates, he's got some crazy stat. Like Eddie scored 13 goals in his last 14 appearances at the Emirates. I mean, that is nuts. I mean, you know, people are talking about don't start Jesus or start Jesus. Eddie's record at the Emirates is ridiculous. But last season against Man United, he scored 2 goals against them. The season before that, when we beat Chelsea 4-2, he scored 2 goals in that game. I think for me, the more you play him, the more you see that rounded player and the results. And remember, he's still growing. He's 2 years away from his prime. So I do agree with you though, Vinci, about the system though. I do agree.
Yeah, I do believe that's the biggest challenge for me with Eddie. It's not the fact that he can't score goals. It's his fitness and stamina in this system to score those goals. And that's going to be a growing pain that's going to frustrate Arsenal fans, because until he sorts that out, when he gets into his man body, as Tony Cox says, he should be lethal, because the guy can score goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a few more points before we go into the final topic. Cam comes in, says Apollo is bang on point there, as always. That's why he's on the collaboration. That's why.
Exactly.
Well said, Apollo. Again, on the points on the goalkeeping position there. And there's another one. Cam says, why create another controversy? Arteta tends to place his own obstacles in front of him. Raya are likely the better goalkeeper overall. Now, what? It's going to rumble and rumble and rumble.
Another thing that will rumble is Partey starting at right back again today. But until it doesn't work, that's when we can complain. As long as it works.
Is he right back again? Is the team shit out?
I'm just going to get the team sheet now. Thank you for that heads up.
Yeah.
Gabriel is on the bench again, so pretty much Tomiyasu.
Saliba and White in centre back.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I'm listening to on Radio 5 Live, because I can't watch that, man. I can't.
You will be regretting it when you win 4-0.
Well, I'll take the result, but it goes against my footballing principles. Seeing a player like Partey, yeah, right, I can't do it, man. That's not watching football. I don't want to say
The
it.
heart won't stand it.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Right, so some business tonight. Yeah, some Premier League action, man. Premier League, yeah. Crystal Palace away. I've got some stats here actually. I think last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doesn't look too good for Crystal Palace, man. Last 6 meetings, there's been 3 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win only for the Palace. Where's this going, Glenwyn? What's the prediction? Where's this one going to head off?
Well, my initial prediction on my prediction app is 2-0 to Arsenal, because they've got, I think, a few players out, which is Olise being one, and another, I think, a defender that's out. So a key player in Olise already gives me a bit of hope to that clean sheet, and I think Ramsdale needs a clean sheet in order to stay ahead of Raya.
Oh, no.
You know what? Again, the saga is going to continue. So, yeah, I think 2-0 for me is going to be my prediction. With Partey on the right-hand side, you know what? Like I said early on, if it works and nothing comes through that can hurt us, it will continue until it doesn't. So all the best to the boys, all the best. Again, my point is with Havertz, I don't understand how does he force Havertz into the team. Yes, I get Apollo said early on, the two of him and Odegaard, they play well together and create sort of spaces for everybody else to come. But I don't know, man.
That's what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is he's trying to create options. And the one thing I saw when I was at the Emirates last week was with Havertz in there, you've now got what Odegaard. Odegaard's one of the best in the league at what he does in his position, but he's only doing it on the right side around Saka. Martinelli hasn't got anybody doing it around his side. You know, bless Xhaka. With all Xhaka's strengths and weaknesses, Xhaka movement and range wasn't, you know, athleticism wasn't his biggest traits. But
but that's my point, Apollo. Did we spend that much money for a player just to create some space? I mean, we need to get goals. We need to score goals early on, and the only person that I can see scoring goals from that position is Trossard. Unfortunately for Havertz, it is Trossard. Trossard can play any position in the front, whether it's an 8, whether it's a wing, whether it's a striker or a 10. He can play there, and that will bring you goals. I mean, you scored 2 goals in the behind the closed doors game. You scored 2 or 3 goals in pre-season, so there is goals there. So we need goals. We need to get our goal tally up. Like last year, we struggled to stick to City goal tally. I mean, if we had to come to a point where it's goal difference, we are going to struggle again, because I mean, it's good and well that Havertz give us that space that anybody else can come around, but we need goals. Is Havertz going to score us goals? Probably yes, but my money is on Trossard to score more goals than anybody in between Havertz, Odegaard, and Rice.
So here's, I have talked about this before, but I'm slowly starting to, you know, I've got my fan hat on and my manager hat on at the same time, and I'm not a part of the fan base that wants Trossard to start. I can actually see what Arteta's doing, and if you look at Liverpool, who they've got on the bench, it's, you know, Zota, they've got Diaz, all these options on the bench, and when they come on the field, what happens? They provide an impact. When you see what Manchester City has got with Foden, and that last season they had Riyad Mahrez, he's gone now. But they had all these options coming off the bench. What happened when they came off the bench? They were an impact. Arsenal, where's their impact? So when I sit back and think about it, I'm like, Mikel, I can see what you're doing here, because Trossard, when he comes off the bench, he is lightning. He makes his presence felt, and we don't have that. That's something we don't. If we're playing a game and we become unstuck, what do? And Trossard is a plan. He's an option. He's an impact player, and we need more elements to that. Does that make sense? So I
It
can
does.
see
But
what
that will
Arteta is
also,
doing.
that will also only work if you give him more than just 20 minutes, because
Yeah, of
coming in at
course, yeah,
70th minute, you know what, then you defeat the purpose. So if you
I
do that,
agree.
you got to give him something to half an hour at least.
Yeah,
That is the least, or do the change. If Havertz doesn't get into that pockets of space to for other people to come in, then make the change quickly. And that is we've all said that
yeah,
the lack of Arteta is to bring in the substitutes in the late. And I mean, I agree with you with that point that you're making, that
yeah,
he will come in and make that impact. But if that has to happen, it has to happen from a
yeah.
very early stage in the second half.
Because I'll tell you what he's doing. When they're watching the footage and they're showing the impact that Trossard's coming on. Last week when he came on, he made 4 recoveries
Okay.
and 3
Yeah,
tackles. And this, we're
correct.
talking about a 5'7" player. To come in and do that, I was like, what? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But he's showing Vieira that, Smith Rowe, Nelson, all these guys on the bench. That's what he's showing them. And he's saying to them, if you want to get on and earn more minutes, I need you to do what Trossard's doing, because that is my expectations. So I can see the big picture, but it's frustrating because if you've seen stuff on the pitch and it's not working and we're struggling and we're running out of ideas, I can see the frustration.
Yeah.
But overall, for me, the bigger picture is we need better impact players. Last season, when we played Newcastle at home, it was a 0-0 draw, and we had nothing on the bench, like nothing. And so I think that with what we're building now, the longevity of the impact players and the results that we can have will probably be better for it.
Yeah.
Glenn.
Alex is astonished. Alex is just he's a crazy. I was deep into the conversation as well, Alex. I was really just listening to two of these giants. For me, I look at it like this. We're only 2 games into the season. There's games Trossard will start, these games Havertz will start, these games Nketiah will start. We're only 2 games, and I can already see the comments on the Arsenal page. People are already complaining about Trossard not starting. People complaining about Nketiah starting. People complaining about Partey at right back. Until it doesn't work, that's when we will complain. If it works, let's see how it goes today. I do feel like it's going to work. But about Trossard, he's a very good player, yes. Glenn is right. The way he was scoring goals in preseason and stuff, like whipping it from outside the box, from that position, yes, he's pretty good. He probably deserves to start. Like, he came to Arsenal and he had like 10 assists and a goal within 4 months. He definitely does deserve to start in the team. But the problem is, his favorite position, Marcelo, has been playing incredibly well. And I'd hate to believe that Havertz is being started because he's a 65 million pound player. I don't believe that. Last week I actually thought he played well. I saw people saying he was terrible. I saw people saying 3 out of 10 performance. No, he actually played well. He was intercepting balls in midfield, making tackles. Yes, I know Glenn wants him to score goals, but I'm sure the goals will come. The goals will definitely come. So it's not just you, Glenn.
Tonight to quiet me down. You know what I mean?
It's not just you. There's others who are even more harsh than you in terms of Havertz. But let's see how it works today. It would be great to have Havertz confidence like at the top from the beginning of the season. So us benching him right now until like the 20th game, I don't think it benefits us. So I'd love it if he scores. That's the one player. All of you are talking about Partey, Ramsdale, Raya. I just want Havertz to score today. That's what I'm praying for. Another interesting point, Alex, I'd like to hear from these guys. Gabriel is on the bench again, by the way. That one is a shock.
Yeah, I've just received a message about that. Vincey.
You know, there's actually people. There's actually people in saying that he's going to Saudi, which I don't want to. What on earth is that all about?
Surely no chance. Surely no chance.
It's rumors.
For me, I listen. 65 million is a lot of money to have a player just create space and not score goals and not assist. I think that would be criminal. I do think Havertz has the ability to score goals and be dynamic. I think that's what we need in that position, a dynamic play. I think he's carrying too much weight right now, Havertz. and I think that's affecting his game. I can understand fans being frustrated with the likes of Trossard being on not starting, because to Apollo's point, yes, you do need somebody coming off the bench, but you also need your starting players to be dynamic as well. So
Exactly.
if you're going to say to yourself, okay, you're going to go through 70 minutes of a game and allow a player to not be dynamic, and then you're going to take that player off to put a dynamic player, you're playing roulette with the other team, as far as I'm concerned. And unfortunately, this is just the dynamic that we have with Havertz and Arteta in this system, because for me, you see the challenges that Martinelli had with that link-up play, and then you see the challenges that your Rice or your Partey have with that link-up play with Havertz. And if Trossard was in there, which he has been last season, when Xhaka was there, you saw the fluidity of the play. So yes, it's a work in progress. Yes, we need goals from Havertz. I think it's criminal to not expect goals from Havertz. I don't think it's wrong to ask for that too soon, because he knows where the goal is. He's in an attacking position. We need goals. You're coming into an Arsenal team that is going for the title. It's only game 2. Yes, you're going to get into your Arsenal career. It's going to take your time, but we need to see a raised level. I personally feel I need to see a raised level. I think Havertz can score at least 10 goals this season with assists, and that's not too much to ask. But I do believe that Trossard it is magical to see Trossard come off the bench and perform the way he did. And finally, just to the point, Apollo, when you were saying that there was nothing dynamic off the bench when we played Newcastle in that 0-0 draw, wasn't Eddie on the bench for that game?
Yeah, but he wasn't fully fit though. But he was on the bench. You're right. Yeah.
Right. So this is the problem I'm trying to say. When you're talking about dynamics and so forth, players can be dynamic individual, play ISO ball, and then you can be dynamic and productive in a system, and then it becomes functional and it impacts other people, other players. That's the problem that I have with Arteta in this system and the players that he's probably gone out with and purchased in the likes of Havertz, because you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, well said, Vinci.
Yeah, fair point.
Just a couple of comments in the live chat again. I guess in regards to Gabriel Magalhães. The rumor says he has met today in London with Saudi president. You see it later heard here first. I'm not sure how true it is, but it's the rumor. I don't think he's going. I don't think he's going.
You know what? It's also not something that you can not expect, but it's something that you can't overlook. It's possible because Saudi came in and changed the whole dynamic of the season and the transfers. Nobody expected them to come in and do all the transfers after Ronaldo has left. So, I mean, they came in and do a whole lot of things that was unexpected, though. So you can't leave it for chance that if that is the case, I mean, the rumors are rumors for the reason, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a good penny for him, unless the player don't want to go, sort of thing. And I doubt he'd want to go because he's got so much to give still. I'd rather go to Real Madrid if that rumor was true than to go to Saudi. Because there was a rumor, and I think you reported on last week, Alex, is that Real Madrid came knocking on his door. So I'd rather do that than go to Saudi. I mean, you're still in Europe, you're still in Champions League, and you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. But like I say, we can't leave it for chance that he might not go.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we've come to an end. But before we go, Apollo, you want to give a prediction for the game tonight?
2-0 tonight to Arsenal.
Okay. All right. Vinci, for you?
I think it's going to be 5-0. Eddie's listening to this stream and he's going to go and score. He's going to prove to me that I know nothing about football. Havertz is going to score and Martinelli. So yeah, 5-0.
And Pat is going to have a masterclass at right back.
Exactly.
Right back.
Right back. It's going to be up and down.
Glenn win. Apollo, you're right, man. You're looking stone faced there, man.
No, you know what it is. You know what it is. I promised you guys last week that I would find you the statistics on Jesus, and I have found it. I've kept it in my share thing for a week, so I can show it to you. All right, hold on. Let me just do it now. This is going to surprise you guys. This is going to surprise you guys. Right, here it is. It's not showing. It's not sharing. Can you guys see it?
Yeah,
there it is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So basically, this is minutes per goal contribution in Premier League history, in the history of the Premier League. And Gabriel Jesus, 107 minutes. He's in the top 10 in history to provide an assist or a goal per 90 minutes. That is insane.
That is, huh?
And this is a stat. You go there and ask any Arsenal fan in the world about this stat, they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
That's why I told you guys last week. He is an elite striker. And people are talking about, we need to buy a striker. We need to bring someone in. Gabriel Jesus is not the answer. Blah, blah, blah. This guy is this guy is elite. He's an elite level. And unfortunately, sorry, go on.
So the question is, Apollo, are we using him correctly if he scores? I mean, if that is the stat, you know what I mean?
Great question, because we know he scored 94 goals in 230 appearances playing at left wing for Manchester City. Why was that important? Because his key attribute is dribbling.
Yeah.
And if you're a striker, you have to learn to play with your back to the goal. Whereas if you're a left winger, you can start to take on players and use your dribbling to your ability. What's Martinelli's biggest complaint is that he doesn't have any vision of, when he's on the ball. He can't pass. That's his biggest problem. He has the least assists in Arsenal's front line because he doesn't know how to deliver a pass. He can go past players, although he's not as good as Jesus at it. So in many respects, I'd actually like to see them flip a little and play Martinelli as the main striker and put Jesus on the left. But, there's ways you can play about with it. I personally think Jesus' best position is wide left or as a false nine. But, he came to the club because we was going to give him a chance at playing at the number 9.
Oh, well,
so the system doesn't work for Jesus then either.
And
I think so, yeah.
And this is where, you're saying fans want a striker. Well, if Jesus scored 15 to 20 goals easy, then fans won't call for a striker.
Yeah.
Because you'll have a striker in Jesus scoring those goals. So I see these stats and I'm thinking, okay, how does it actually work in the way how we play football? Well, it worked for City because he would dribble and he would have an Aguero, he would have a Sane, and the fluidity was there. We don't have that. So I look at the stats and I'm thinking, okay, at City, yes, but if he's not scoring 15 to 20 goals at Arsenal, and Arteta doesn't want those players to be dribbling that much because you've got Pepe, who's on his way out of the club because that's predominantly what he was doing in that position. And Arteta wanted those players to hold the ball and move in increments. Then I'm not going to see Jesus dribbling like he was dribbling at City. I'm just not going to see it.
So that's a fair point. But the reality, Vincey, is last season he started 24 games and then handed 18 goals. 7 assists, 11 goals. So the statistics are there right in front of our eyes. It's working. And remember, he went 10 games without a goal.
But that's the player. That's what I'm saying to you. That's the player we're talking about. If he knows that period of time where he went in that huge drought when he was playing good football, lightning football, you'd be thinking we don't need a striker. Because he's on form, he's contributing with assists, he's lighting up the team, his movement, but goals weren't there. And goals,
Over
as
to
you
you,
know, when you're on top of teams and you're not scoring goals, then that's a factor. They breed in confidence. So, we have goals going around the team, but we've got to take our chances. And that's where the ethos is in fans saying, okay, you know what, we need a striker, because strikers supposed to be clinical with the chances they take or they have.
And he's got to stay injury free as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vincey isn't happy, is it? Like we really do need that 3-1 victory that we are going to get today, Ralex. So that is my prediction, by the way. So we really need that win today.
No, but Vinci says 5-0.
Even better.
Anyway, guys, we've come to an end on the latest segment of the Back Five podcast. Wow, very, very interesting points, guys. But yeah, Arsenal should get the business done tonight. But who knows in football? Who knows?
Yeah, I start my stream in 25 minutes. So as soon as I leave you, I'm gonna eat my dinner, then jump back on.
Yeah. Anyway, Glenn, thank you for coming back on the podcast, the Back Five podcast. Glenn, thank you very much. Vincey, Martinelli's agent. How is Martinelli doing? Vincey?
Martinelli's living the dream, man. He's at home, and he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's in he's in the Brazil squad now, so he's living the dream, man. He's living the dream.
Well said.
I think Gabriel got a call up, didn't he, as well?
He did, which is great. He missed out because he didn't make it for his birth of his child, wasn't it, last year? So fair play to him.
Yeah. And Apollo, nice one, man. Nice one for coming back. And Apollo, like I said, is going to be going live in 30 minutes. God, Terry, me. Anyway, guys, thank you so very much. And make sure that you do subscribe to all my guests here. I think I've left the link in the description box below, all barring Vincey. But Vincey is Martinelli's agent, so he doesn't need anyone to follow him. Anyway, guys,
big up Vincey. Big up.
This has been the Back Five podcast, the channel for us all over the world. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.